I'm Elizabeth Brumfield. I'm a professor of anthropology in the Department of Anthropology. I'm a specialist in the archaeology of Aztec civilization, which is the last of the great civilizations in Mexico. And I have been the lead curator on the exhibit, The Aztec World, that opened at the Field Museum October 26th and will close on April 19th. My contribution was perhaps in developing the theme of the exhibit, and we wanted to give visitors a feeling for the richness of Aztec culture and the diversity of Aztec culture. So we decided to show a lot of the really wonderful monumental pieces, but also other pieces that would give people more of a feel for other segments of the society. The Aztecs first arrived in the basin of Mexico in the early 13th century. They had been wandering, their legends say, for maybe 200 years, and this is where they built their capital, Tenochtitlan. This box had offerings probably to the maize gods in it, but it has these very fine maize ears sculpted on the outside, reminding us that corn or maize was the principal crop of the Aztec people in the Aztec Empire and provided sustenance really for the building of the empire. Of course, growing the food was only half of the workload. The other half was actually taking this raw food stuff and turning it into digestible food. And women mostly were responsible for that. Aztec food systems were very sophisticated in that they devised a whole system for processing maize kernels. And I think just by the symmetry of this picture, it suggests that commoner gender relations were fairly egalitarian and complementary. Men perhaps had major responsibility for farming and women for food preparation. And surprisingly, childcare wasn't regarded as solely or even primarily a woman's responsibility. Men were responsible for rearing male children, and women were responsible for training female children. And children themselves had responsibilities. So at the bottom of this picture, you see the daughter offering burning incense to the gods. Commoners were concerned mostly with deities that affected agricultural production, and one of these deities was Tlaloc, was the god of rain. And here's an image of Tlaloc that was actually on a jar that was in the Great Temple of the Aztecs. Tlaloc has these round, circular eyes and fangs coming out from his mouth and a kind of a twisted nose. And Tlaloc characteristically carries a jar with him. He lives in the dark, moist caves and mountains and then comes out in a rush of clouds and brings his jar. And when he tips his jar over, that's when it rains. This is of the god of the underworld, the god of death. And this is a kind of a scary, half-skeletized figure. The holes in his head would have held curly hair, and curly hair was sort of symbolic of cosmic darkness and disorder that threatened light and life. The organ dangling from his chest cavity is a liver. The liver was one of the seats of the soul, according to the Aztecs. The Aztecs were finally defeated by Cortez and his Spanish conquistadores. So this is an image from after conquest, and what it shows is that a lot of Aztec imagery and technology didn't die with the conquest, but lived on and was sort of shaped and combined with European technology and ideas. I mean, this is a Christian cross on top of a pretty native-looking pyramid structure and radiating light and sun, just like, the old images of the sun that we've seen throughout this exhibit.